Hi, and welcome to another episode of Global, where we look at one country at a time and the development of women's football there. Today, we'll talk about Zambia with Aaron Mubanga. Zambia, just a couple of years ago, was ranked 114th in the world. In the last 4 years, they made it to an Olympics and a World Cup. In just about 10 years, they became a big deal in women's football. Actually, the two most expensive players in the whole world are Zambian, Barbra Banda and Rachael Kundananji. We talked on the day of the announcement that Barbra Banda would move to the US to ORANDA Pride. Aaron is going to explain how that came about, but also how, in general, this amazing development came about. Though, despite having these star players, they got knocked out in the group stages at the World Cup. But Aaron is sure that Zambia can do better at the Olympic Games in Paris this summer. In short, Zambia is an exciting place for women's football at the moment, but it's also not free of controversies. Besides the on-the-field success and Aaron's role as Barbra Bandas manager, we also talked about the allegations against Zambian national team coach Bruce Mwape. Aaron was such an interesting person to talk to, and I hope you enjoy our conversation.
Women's football matters. Global, hosted by Verena. Because women's football matters.
So I'm here today with Aaron Mubanga. He's the editor-in-chief of Zamfoot, and he's also the manager of Barbra Banda and Everine Katongo. He's also a Betway ambassador and a talent scout, so he does a lot of things. First, let me talk to you a bit about your position as editor-in-chief at Zamfoot. Can you tell me and the listeners a bit what kind of work you do there?
So basically, Zamfoot is www.zambianfootball.co.zm. It's Zambia's largest all local football platform, online platform. So basically, for me, majority of the time is just to go through stories that are written by our writers and also contribute stories to the website about Zambian football. So we do from grassroots football to the national team and anything in between, players abroad and everything. So that's mostly what I do, but I've concentrated so much on women's football in the last 5 to 7 years because I've seen the potential that's there in Zambia's women's football, and I've been writing most of my stories have basically just been about women's football and how it's been developing in the last few years.
I then also saw that you work for the Barbra Banda Foundation. What does the foundation do?
So basically, for the foundation, we started it as a way of linking vulnerable girls and boys, but basically leaning towards girls because of Barbra, to link them towards the resources, because there could be a service that somebody is lacking somewhere and somebody willing to offer it, but they may not have access to go and in that office and ask for that service. So the idea was for Barbra to be the link to go into an office and say, okay, look, my people in my compound where I come from, they need such and such a service. The girls here are lacking what and what. So are you in a position to help? And because of the status that she's gained with football career, it's easier for people to listen to her than an ordinary young girl who goes there. So that's the idea. So basically, we're still not fully functional the way we want it to be. We've just been trying to make sure we set up everything correctly. We've done, I think, 2 tournaments so far as a way of raising awareness. Yeah, it's a work in progress. We have not yet arrived where we want to be, but hopefully, with all this new buzz around Barbra and the move to the United States, will help us get in as many people, as many donors as we can, so that we could be able to help a little girl out there who may be in need of a service or one service or another.
Yeah, I'm just gonna ask you about the move then. Obviously, you're Barbra Bandas manager, and it was just today announced that she would move to Orlando Pride from Shanghai. What can you tell me? Like, how did this happen?
So basically, what people don't know is that since she's been in China from 2020, a number of clubs from Europe have been getting in touch, wanting to get on their roster. But the issue has always been some of them couldn't match the price that Shanghai wanted. Some of them couldn't match the personal terms that were good enough for a talent like Barbara. And so it's been back and forth, a number of clubs here and there. Um, some of these top clubs have come and some of them couldn't match. There's a club name withheld who almost matched, but there were some issues that made the deal breakdown. So she initially was supposed to go back to Europe because remember she played in Spain at EDF Logrono. She was initially supposed to go back to Europe, but the deal broke down. And again, another big European team again came, but they couldn't match the conditions. So Orlando Pride jumped on the chance and said, Duh, we are willing to pay for this. We are willing to do all this for you. So they put up a very good offer, and it was too tempting for the club and the player to say no to. So I said, okay, let's go and have an adventure in the US. Besides, the league there is very strong. So it will be a challenge, a good challenge for me, and of course, a chance to break new ground and challenge myself, see what I can be able to do in a strong league like the National Women's Soccer League in the United States.
Yeah, awesome. Can you also tell us a bit what your role then is in all of this? I mean, what does a manager actually do?
There's a misconception. So some people think I'm an agent. Not really. Some agents play the same role. You can be an agent and a manager. For me, basically, Barbara's got a manager called Anthony from Bulgaria. Is the one that is in charge of the moves and everything. For me, basically, my job is just to manage the perception of the player out there. So our welfare,
Ah.
when she's here, when she's out there, coordinate even things like, okay, which of these interviews can we do? Is this good for us? How does our image look out there? And make sure everything is spotless. Obviously, nobody is as straightforward as that. There will be challenges here and there, but the idea is to make sure she only concentrates on playing football. So if there's anything outside that, I manage those. And of course, I'm the first point of access to her. If there's something, let's say an organization comes and they want something, they want to partner, maybe they want an ad. So they'll come, we have a conversation, and then if the conversation makes sense, and then I pass it on and say, okay, so here, look, Barbara, so here is where we are at. This company says the ABCD. What do you think? And then we go back and forth on that. So my role is just to make sure she's okay, and even before games, to make sure she's in the right headspace, because I've been in her life for over 10 years. So I know, like, people will not know that she's not okay right now. Like when she's upset or something, people will not notice, but me, I would know she's not in the right headspace. So what do I do to make sure she's okay? Because she's going to this important game. So things like that, just to make sure she's okay and everything like that. So that's my role in her life. And that's how it has been for the last 7-10 years.
That's very interesting because I think that's something that a lot, like me included, I don't really know what exactly managers do. It's always this like blurry thing. But so that was very interesting to get some words to that. Of course, another player and very important player for the Zambian national team is Rachael Kundananji, who also just moved to the US to BAFC and became even more expensive. So the two most expensive players in the world right now are two Zambian players. What do you think, besides, of course, an amazing transfer fee and probably a lot bigger salary for both of them? What do you think about the move on the field wise? How can they impact the American League?
I think it's beneficial both ends. It's beneficial to the American Women's National Soccer League because these are two top talents who will be able to give competition, and of course, because of how well they play, even help attract even more fans to the stadium, because you are guaranteed of good football every weekend. They're going to score goals, and that's guaranteed. They love to score goals, so fans can come and watch beautiful goals and everything, things like that. So they're going to bring this new flair to the American League. And of course, also on our end, it's a very good thing, because at the end of the day, the whole world out there now is looking at Zambia like, oh, they've got the two most expensive players in the world. Maybe there's talent out there. Even people who didn't think about Zambia like that, because our first World Cup appearance was just last year. So it's not as we have not been as big a nation in women's football as we would like to be. Obviously, the talent is there. So now everybody's looking at us. So it's a good thing for the clubs out there. They'll be able to make money off transfers. For the players, they'll get chance to play in some of the best clubs in the world, in Europe, in America, China, and the like. And the thing is, obviously, we are not delusional. We understand that we have the talent, but we may not have the best clubs in the world. So our players still have to go out there, play at some of the best clubs, and obviously where it's more developed, they'll get better conditions and everything. So this is a very good thing for us. I'm so excited about it, because there's so much talent that is coming out. Our under-17 national team has so much talent, the under-20, the U23. So there's a lot of talent out there that could benefit the world out there. All these top clubs could benefit from. But without these moves, no, not many eyes would have been on Zambia. So now everybody will be looking on Zambia. So our players will get a chance to go out there and showcase how good they are. So this is very good. Thanks to Barbra and Kundananji for putting Zambia on the map. In Zambia, we say Zambia Chalo, meaning Zambia to the world.
Zambia has made it to the Olympics and they've made it to the World Cup, but back in 2012, I looked it up, they were ranked 126th in the world. So in a pretty short time, they made it very, very far. How, in your view, did this happen? How did they get this far in such a short time?
There's been a lot of work by clubs and individual players, but also I think we're lucky enough. I think this is the golden generation of women's football in Zambia, because players like Barbra Banda and Kundananji are a once-off thing. You are not going to produce a Barbra Banda every day. I don't think so. The quality that Barbra adds, very there. And I remember I've been having these conversations with people for a long time. I kept telling them this is a special talent, but because of my relationship with her, they just thought, oh no, it's just exaggerating, But these are because of having to watch her train, work every day, play week in, week out. You're able to see the pattern that, okay, this is not ordinary. This is not that what everybody else does every week. This is different. So I think we also that this is also our golden generation. Remember in 2014, some of these players who are playing a national team went to the under-17 World Cup for the first time. Yes, we got booted in the first round. We only managed one win. But that talent is what is fed majority of the national team with the inclusion of a number of young players who've come through, like Evelyn Katongo, Ochumba Oseke Lubanji, and the like, Pauline Zulu. But the core of that team, they are all coming from that under-17 World Cup team. So we kind of have a golden generation of women's football, and also because of also the work that has been done by individual clubs. And most of our clubs are run by individuals who just invest in this women's football because they love the sport and they love the passion that these girls have. So it's a combination of factors, but mostly because of the effort that has been put in by people who are running women's football clubs.
Before the World Cup, I think that was kind of the first time I really noticed Zambia when they beat Germany. And
yes, I know.
I'm being honest.
Everybody took notice. And fun enough, there are people who just have something about them. Barbra is one of them. We were supposed to win that game 2-0. And Kundananji scored those 2 goals. But they equalized until it went to 2-2 for Barbra to come out with that heroic goal. Even the last Olympics qualifier before going to the next round, we were supposed to win the game 2-1 or even draw 2-2 and just qualify like that. But at the death, they started leading, and at the death, Barbra scored a beautiful free kick. I've only seen that from a few players, because I remember Cristiano Ronaldo doing it against Bayern think in 2015 or so, when we went to 15, that low free kick, I only seen it from such players, and that's what she did. She just went straight to below, and it went in, and everybody's been going crazy ever since. I think she's just got that thing about her. And the goal against Germany, that's some genius to it. She just said, okay, that goalkeeper is there. Let's rob and let's get this goal. Since then, we've been getting so much love from out there. Like, okay, these guys have got something to them, eh?
Well, fair enough. Like the coolness it takes to finish it like that is like that's amazing. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But then Zambia was kind of rated as a team that could maybe cause quite an upset at the World Cup. But I mean, in all fairness, they had a pretty tough group, Japan and Spain, as the first two games. Then you were knocked out. How would you rate this performance in the group stages?
I think for me, fair, because at the end of the day, in as much as we have got a very good team, we've not reached a level where we compete with the best of the best out there. Spain went on to win the World Cup. Japan have won have been top three of the youth tournaments in the last 5 years, under 17, under 20. Because before the World Cup, I was checking everybody's statistics, checking where the players have come from. You look at the quality of players that they have. They have a player who went to Man City for a season and became the best player in that team in one season. So you look at the quality that they have, the amount of work they have done. Under 20, they lost the World Cup to Sama Paludero and Spanish under 20 side in the final. And I looked at those players and the level they are, the investment they have put in. Spain and Japan are not our level. I'm sorry, people back home, some of them thought we underachieved. But for me, I'm not delusional enough to think we should match them immediately. No, that's not our level. We have a lot of way to go. When we faced a team that was closer to our level, we played well and we managed to beat them 3-1. And I was telling them, this is our level, you see? After Japan beat us, I was rooting for Japan to win the World Cup. I wanted them to win the World Cup. The beautiful football they played was just amazing. Even though they beat us, I was like, fair enough. You deserve to win. So I think just to learn lessons and see where we can improve and learn from what the best out there are doing, and then obviously implement and improve so that when we go again, we are able to navigate through the group and maybe reach the quarterfinals or something like that.
Yeah, and of course there's an Olympics ahead. And if I looked it up correctly, you'd have to face Morocco or Tunisia in the final for the qualifying.
They are facing Morocco because they beat Tunisia
okay.
already.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's Morocco then. No? Sorry. And how do you think the chances are to beat Morocco in that last game?
Funny enough, I'm very confident we're going to beat Morocco. Maybe it's because I was there when we beat them in the two friendlies away in Morocco, 2-0 and 6-2. Barbra and Kundananji scored that tricks in the 6-2 win. But obviously they've got a new coach who beat us 5-0 with Spain. So there's that trick. Tactically, we're going to face a very tactical coach, a top coach. But I feel in terms of the quality that they have, it's not the same as Spain. So we can match them on that side. And the physicality, they're going to struggle with the physicality of players. So that gives us a bit of an edge.
Do you think, let's say you do make it to the Olympics, what would be a good tournament? How far do you think Zambia could go?
Not getting out of the group would be a failure for me. I think getting out of the group will be our target. After that, whatever happens is fine.
There's also been a lot of talks and a lot of discussions around the coach of the national team, Bruce Mwape, who has faced sexual misconduct allegations. And that kind of came out before the World Cup. He also supposedly had sexual relations with players. There's been a lot of criticism around it. How do you think, in your view, he managed to keep his position besides all these allegations?
It's the thing of, I think there's not been concrete evidence, but it's tricky in situations like this. If it's really true, is guilty of such things, it's unfortunate and he doesn't deserve to be with the team. But then again, there's no concrete evidence that proves that he's been doing these things, or there's never been a witness who's come forward and said, oh, This is true. He did this to me. There's no position for the FA to get rid of him per se. But in some of these cases also, it's tricky because maybe the victim that's there maybe is scared of coming out. So it's a very tricky situation. Like you don't even know which way to go to now. So for me, it's really been tricky because at the end of the day, I wouldn't want Bruce hanged for unfairly if he really didn't do anything. But again, I wouldn't also want, because that team has a number of young girls who go there, I wouldn't also want him, if he's really doing that, to do that to young girls, because that's disgusting. One, two, it just traumatizes these young girls, and of course, a whole lot of things. It's impacts them, their future, in a negative way. So that's something I would also not want to happen to these girls, because some of them have very personal relationships with them from the time they were like, Evelyn, I met her when she was like 14. These kids I met when like 12, those that are at the under 17 who've made it to the senior team. So it's tricky to even imagine a grown up with a kid like that. So it's just put me in a weird space where I don't know where to fall. But just hoping all this was just somebody out there trying to tarnish his name, and it's not true. Because at the end of the day, the worst case scenario is that it's true, which is something else. If somebody was just trying to tarnish his name, he can survive. But if he really did something to some of these girls, because it's for life, there's nothing that we can reverse for the girls. Like there's no way to help them out of such. So it's been tricky. But for the association, I felt like it's a thing of they didn't have concrete evidence to go by. They talked about an inquiry into him, but I don't think anything concrete has come out of it. So they've just been like, okay, since we don't have, let's go ahead. But obviously, I think a close eye has to be put on the team, since the team manager is female. The team manager and the doctors, the assistant coaches, who are all females, need to help keep an eye and make sure that it's on the up and up, and there's nothing of that sort that's happening.
Thank you for the good answer. I'm just going to make a hard cut now and talk about the perception of the team in general in the public. Was there, for instance, a lot of like interest in the team during the World Cup? Like, are people very engaged in the national team?
4 or 5 years ago, nobody cared when you talked about women's football. Before we went to AFCON last year, after the news came out that Barbra will not play, there was an entire national debate on social media. Everywhere you went, everybody wanted to have their opinion. Even people who had never watched women's football. That's how big it became. As of now, you cannot tell anybody anything now. When the Copper Queens play, because of how poor our men's team is doing, there's even these jokes from some of the fans that this is our only national team, because then they win and everything like that. So there's so much interest now in women's football. It's incredible to see how much people have put interest in this team. The game against Ghana at home was midweek. It was on Wednesday. People showed up and it was almost full capacity. And that stadium is about 45,000, 50,000 capacity. It was almost full on a Wednesday for women's football. Back then, even a 10,000 capacity stadium will not be filled. 5,000 people, maybe 2,000, 3,000 show up. But now we are moving towards our official figures. We are like 29,000 plus people showed up on a working day, on a Wednesday, to come and watch the Copper Queens.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's very cool. Does it also translate to the league a bit? I mean, you've already talked a bit about how some players move abroad to go play in the bigger leagues, but what is the level of the Zambian league like?
In comparison to the world, still very far. In comparison to Africa, we are, I think, top 5. We are moving closer. I think 3, 4, 5 years ago, there was the introduction of the National League, because initially we only had regional leagues. So we have like 10 provinces. So there's a provincial league here, another, so those 10 provinces with leagues, and then things like that. But now we have a national women's league, which is the highest level, the national super league. Then there is national division 1, which is also across the nation. And then there is now provincial leagues that in the capital, there is also provincial division 2, and they're introducing division 3. So like there's been a lot of development in the last 5 years. The league is increasing. We're even getting players from outside. We have players from Botswana. So we've got a number of these players from the region who are coming into Zambia to play. We also had like I think 3 from Zimbabwe. So we are having all these players coming because our league is improving, and we are trying to get there.
And there's also the Champions League, the CAF Champions League now. How well do Zambian teams do in that?
For that, we've qualified once. We were eliminated in the group stage. So they were because of how it's structured. So you become regional champions, and then you go to the CAF Champions League. So they won. So we've not done so well, but hoping again the team that goes to the regional championship this year qualifies.
How many fans go to league games? I mean, obviously there's bigger and smaller clubs, but how many maybe on average?
On average, I think 1,000 or so. The leagues have not reached that level yet. But some big games you may even get, if there are no men's league games happening, you may even get maybe 2,000, 3,000, depending on the level of the match.
What's the kind of the path for these players like, who maybe do they start out in the league? Are there youth academies and then move to the national team, or what's kind of the normal path, quote unquote, for national team players?
Most of them start out from they are strong teams that are known for grooming young players, like Busa, ORANDA Foundation, Pataki. So from these clubs, they are basically known for nurturing talent between 8 and 18. Most of those players will go to the under 17 national team. So from the under 17 are promoted to the 20s, and then they go to the national team. Some of them, for exception like Barbra, you go from 17 direct to the senior team. You end up playing for all 3 of them at the same time. Mostly that's how it goes. But from those teams, some will move on to bigger Super League teams like Green Buffaloes, Indeni, Elite, Zanaco Ladies. And when they move on to those now playing in a more competitive league, then if they do well in the league, they get a chance to be assessed for the COSAFA and all these local camps. Most of the local Super League players will get a chance to go into that COSAFA team, do well, and then get a chance to play in the main team, maybe for Olympic qualifiers, WAFCON qualifiers, the WAFCON itself, and World Cup if we qualify in 2027, which I feel we will do.
Well, thank you very much for answering all the questions. There are like 2 questions we ask every guest. And the first one is, how did you get into women's football?
I just used to cover men's football. So then a friend of mine told me, okay, let's go, should go and watch a women's league game. Okay. And then we agreed. So when I want to watch this game, that's the first time I saw Evelyn when she was like 13, 14. I just saw this player playing better than everybody. I was like, oh, okay, cool. There's such a player, because initially I was working with men's football and also like just Barbra, because like Barbra was just the exception. So most of the time we'd just watch the national team, maybe training and the game, but never really followed the league that much. But when I want to watch this game, I saw Evelyn, like this is a special player. So after that, I went back. So initially it was just to go and watch her play, because when she played for that club, she was their Barbra Banda per se. So everything went through her. She enjoyed the way she played the game, and like you would enjoy the way she played the game. So it made me happy. So every time they're playing, I would go back just to watch her play. So after that, when they're playing, so this other team, I see another youngster who's playing well. I'm like, oh, so we have so much talent in all these teams. So that's how I started following, and it just became like an obsession. And people would laugh initially in the first place. Women's football, why? And they will never get it. I'm like, the talent that's there, the passion, and because it doesn't have the financial muscle that our men's league have, the kids and the players in the women's leagues just play for the passion. So it's good to see just how much they put in for these games, and people never understood that. So that's what kept me going back, and it became my whole thing. And everybody was like, every time they wanted to ask anything about women's football, they'll go, oh no, women's football, this. And so it just became a thing, and I was like, let me run with it.
Very cool. Well, the follow-up question then is, what are some of the hopes or, of course, maybe also fears you have for the future of women's football? And you can talk about Zambia or the whole world, whatever you wish to talk about.
Basically, for Zambia, I've loved the fact that there's so much interest from the fans and everybody else. But my hope is that also the financial side of it is also improved. Even the world, we're talking of a record which is 787, 788, less than 800,000 pounds in terms of the highest transfer ever. Go to the men's side, even an average player is bought for 1 million plus.
Yeah.
And the level of Barbra Banda, the quality in men's football, she would go for 100 million going up. I think that's one thing that needs to improve. It needs to get the respect that it deserves. Fun enough, people even now after they see the quality, they've seen the World Cup. We had very beautiful games. We have players like Lauren James, who was playing like she was just having fun in there. The quality of players, the level of these games, but it needs to match with the financial muscle that's put in. I think for me, that's my major hope. My fear obviously goes back to for Zambia is because everybody now has seen the trick. Now they've seen that, okay, these guys have got very good talent. They're a very good team. So everybody will be coming prepared. At least back then, we had the element of surprise. Now we don't. So I think that's my fear. But I think it also poses as a chance for us to improve to a level where even if they come prepared, we're able to and give them a very good game.
Thank you. It was great to talk to you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
That was my conversation with Aaron. I had a really great time talking to him, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation as well. I want to thank him again for taking the time. I think he's such an interesting person in women's football in Zambia. And yeah, I hope you liked the episode. Let us know what you thought of it. If you have any ideas for future episodes, also let us know that. And goodbye. As always, Global is hosted by me, Verena Müller-Baltes, and produced by Janis Müller and Women's Football Collective.
Women's football.